Hello everyone. Today I will tell you 5 real horror stories from netizens' experiences. From netizens' submissions. This happened when I was in my second year of college. It's a weird one, but it's nothing paranormal. I used to live alone in an apartment on the ground floor, and there was a period of my life in that apartment where someone would bang on the window each night. It went on for about 2 weeks. One of my good friends lived nearby, so at first, I thought it was his doing. I always opened up the window and looked down, but I never saw anyone out there. It was really annoying because the window was close to where I sleep. My bed was just below it. So if I was lying down on my bed, it would scare the crap out of me. I always asked him, either by text or in person, if it was him knocking on the window, and he always denied it. I never believed him, though I thought that it was just him being committed to the prank. I didn't really see the funny side, and I always told him that. But still, every night the banging came on the window. One night, I invited him over to speak to him about his stupid prank. We were drinking and playing games, and I planned to have a serious talk with him before we got too drunk. My plans were dashed when I heard the sound of banging at the window. We sat staring at one another in shock, to silence, and then he said to me, "What did you say was happening recently?" I told him about the banging again and how I was sure it was him doing it. We sat there for a moment, wondering who the culprit could be. We didn't react in time to catch whoever was doing it in the act. My friend then started to ask me if I annoyed anybody recently. All of a sudden, he was certain I had made an enemy or something. I told him I didn't think I had upset anyone recently. It wasn't like I made a habit of doing that to people. I sat there thinking to myself, how much should I really care about this? I only ever had one instance of banging per night, so I figured whoever was doing it might get bored soon. Anyway, the next night I was out. I can't remember what I was doing. I was probably going to the convenience store or something. On my way back, I was heading down the road that runs parallel to my window, and that's when I saw someone. I thought to myself, as I slowed my pace, "Caught you red-handed." There was an old man standing there looking at my window. As I drew closer to him, he noticed me. We looked into one another's eyes, and then the old man ran for it. I chased after him. I wanted to know what his problem was and why he was doing it. I guess I thought that if I didn't chase him, he would be back again the following night. I chased him for a little while, and predictably, he ran out of steam. When I caught up to him, I realized that I knew that guy. He worked at the university. He was a lecturer and was a regular at the convenience store I worked at. I was really shocked. I had no clue why he was doing this. He gave me a disgusted look when I caught up to him. I didn't know what to say, so I just walked away. The next day, I waited for his lecture to finish, and then I went to confront him. I asked him what his problem was, and he told me, apparently, I was invited to his extracurriculum seminar, and I didn't attend it. I don't even remember being invited, so it must have been a very light invitation. My refusal was seen as very rude by him, and it sounded like it really hurt his sense of pride. It seems that was enough reason for him to torment me. We found out where I lived after he waited for me to finish work. He literally followed me home. So, banging on a window, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? Well, in the first side, my blood when he told me what his next plans were. Shame you caught me in the act. To be honest, I had something more planned for you. After about a month, I was going to put the heaviest stone I could lift through your window while you were sleeping. The way he said that with a smile was so disturbing to think that someone in a position of power and care over students could be that callous. Oh, you can report this if you want. It won't matter, no one will believe you. Okay, that's all. On your way. The way he was so indifferent, cold, that's something I'll never forget. I didn't report him. I swore that I would if anything else happened. But nothing ever did. He seemed to know exactly what he was able to get away with. Plus, if I started talking about it, then maybe he would be back. incapable of something worse. This all happened at a university in Tokyo. I'll keep the university's name secret because it probably doesn't work there anymore. It's been a long time. Plus there were some really great lecturers there, and I don't want them all to be tied with the same brush. It's in the Tree, read by Dark Omnibus. When I was in high school, I used to take these late-night baths, usually at around 10 a.m. My classmate and childhood best friend lived next door to me, so sometimes we would stay up super late at his house. And then when I got home, I would take my bath and get to sleep. I used to sneak out to go over to his house. My parents didn't know I was up that late. Our bathroom is on the bottom floor too, which is why I was able to take late-night baths without waking up the whole house. So one night, I snuck out as usual to go over to his house for another night of gaming. And just before 10 a.m., I snuck back in and headed for the bathroom. I was going about my business as quietly as possible. While I was in the bath, I heard a scream. I knew that scream, it was my friend's. It scared the hell out of me. But before I started to panic, I let the logical side of my brain kick in. What's wrong? Did you see a cockroach or something? I wondered, but then I heard another noise. There was now a banging sound coming from next door. It sounded like it was one of the shutters on the windows. What the hell was something out there? I wondered, just as my heart rate began to rise. The noise has stopped. Concern replaced panic. I was genuinely worried. After a few moments of silence, I heard another noise. It sounded like one of the trees close to my friend's house was now swaying. I had heard them make this noise during heavy winds and typhoons, but never on a night like that. There was a dense tree line between our two families' properties. It usually helped me hide when I snuck out, but now it sounded like it was hiding something else. It wasn't even windy out. Then, after a while, the trees near our house started shaking like crazy too. Panic was back. Whatever scared the hell out of my friend seemed to be very close to our house. I heard the tree that was closest to the bathroom shaking and knew that that tree overlooked the bathroom. I was thinking that it could be a wild animal or something. Either way, I needed to get out of the bath. I felt very defenseless in there. I got out and put a towel around myself and slowly approached the window. I looked out, but I couldn't see anything. It was dark, and the bathroom was a little steamy too. I wanted to know what was out there. I needed to know, so I did something dumb. I opened the bathroom window. The second I opened the window and looked up a little, I saw a pair of eyes staring at me. There was a woman halfway up our tree, glaring at me wide-eyed. Her face seemed unusually pale, and she was expressionless. It was as if I was looking at a living mannequin. She had short hair and was wearing a dark raincoat. Seconds or perhaps minutes passed, and we were just looking at one another. My feet felt as if they were frozen to the floor. I felt as if I couldn't look away, like a deer in headlights. Then a drop of water fell from the faucet into the bath with a loud splash, and that brought me back to reality. I screamed at the top of my lungs and scrambled to close the window. Once the window was shut, I locked it. I heard the sound of the tree's branches and leaves moving, and then I heard a thick, heavy thud land outside on the ground just beyond the window. The woman was right there behind the window. Only a thin layer of glass separated us. She stood there and stared. That's only face to stare at me. She raised her finger and began to tap on the glass. I backed away from the window towards the bathroom door. The taps grew into knocks, and the knocks grew into thumps. Before long, she was hammering on the window. I thought that it would break. It was at this point I heard my dad shout something from the upstairs window. I opened the bathroom door and got out of there. My body felt ice cold. I stood there in my towel, shaking and terrified. My dad went outside, but before he got downstairs, the woman was already gone. The next day at school, I asked my friend what he saw, and he confirmed that he saw the expressionless woman banging on his window too. He said that the woman was singing in a quiet voice, Open the window. Open the window. I was scared for days after that. She haunted my dreams. We quit the late night gaming sessions, and I never took a bath that late again. Even as an adult, I don't like being in the bathroom at night for extended periods. She never came back, but I don't think I can ever get her expressionless face out of my memories. It was the most terrifying thing that has ever happened to me. The lone cone. This happened about 20 years ago in the early 2000s. I was working in the service industry at the time. I was traveling home from work on the train as usual. It must have been at around 9 p.m. I got off at my local station and started walking home. I called my friend on the walk home. It was something I often did. We called all the time, and we never really got bored of conversation. While I was on my way home, as the conversation was flowing, my phone's low battery notification went off. My phone was old at the time, and I knew that as soon as I got that notification, I had about 5 minutes to get to a charger before it died. I was far from home, but I really wanted to carry on talking with my friend. The gossip was too good. I should have gone home and just put my phone on charge, but I decided to duck into a phone booth and call her before my phone cut out. After a while, I realized I was getting kind of low on money, which was just as well as the conversation had fizzled out or was heading to a natural conclusion. After saying bye to my friend, I hung up and turned to exit the phone booth. On the other side of the glass door, I saw a middle-aged man wearing a jersey, sat astride a bicycle. He was so close to the phone booth it seemed as if he had been there for a while. I assumed that he was waiting for me to finish my call so he could use the payphone. I said something like, "Sorry if you were waiting for a long time for the phone." However, the man didn't appear that interested in the phone. He didn't go into the booth, he just slowly started to follow me at a distance. I thought to myself, well, I guess he could be heading my way home. I didn't really feel comfortable, so I headed into a nearby convenience store. I used the bathroom and bought a couple of bits and pieces I needed for home. I was in there for about 10 minutes, and then I left. As soon as I left the store, my eyes were drawn to a familiar figure on the top of a bicycle. The man was still in the area and appeared to be waiting for me. I didn't see him through the convenience store's windows as he stood slightly out of view. I was getting seriously weird vibe from him at this point. I started walking home, and once again, he started following me at a distance. I didn't want him to know where I lived, so I ran for it. I knew that there was a police station not too far from the convenience store, so I headed there. There was an officer on duty. I told him that a man was following me. He said that he couldn't intervene unless direct harm had been caused. Basically, he wouldn't do anything until something happened. He was completely unhelpful. I turned my back on that officer and went to storm out. But once again, someone caught my eye. The man was there. He was staring at me from across the street. I spun around and appealed to the officer. I said, "There he is. He's right there." His radio sparked alive. He spoke with someone and then said to me, "I've just received an urgent report. I'm gonna have to leave right away. Look, leave your address, name, phone number, and any other details here, and I'll make sure someone patrols your neighborhood later. Okay? It's the best I can do for you right now. You should just go home and stay safe." I was at a loss for words, but since it was almost 11 p.m. and I was on my way home, I decided to keep going. I looked towards the man, and he looked really pleased with himself. He didn't seem deterred. He didn't seem worried that I'd just come out of a police station. He seemed to know exactly what the outcome would be and was pretty happy about it all. I hope that policing has improved over the last 20 years. I started to walk home. I didn't have many other viable options. From the police station to my place, it wasn't that far. The man followed me. He was shouting something now. I tried to walk as fast as I couldn't ignore him, but he was clearly yelling something towards me. I didn't think he was drunk, but I couldn't make out what he was shouting. Well, it was getting a little much. So I decided that I didn't want to go home anymore. I don't know why I let that cop tell me it was a good option. I figured that my next best course of action would be to call my parents' house and see if anyone that could come and pick me up. One problem. Though my phone's out of battery, I knew that there was another phone booth nearby. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. The only issue being that the phone booth was in a park, and that park was dark and creepy at night. I didn't know if I could handle being in there with this guy following me. All the houses that back onto the park did give me some comfort, but if the people in those houses were as indifferent as the officer was, then would it be a good idea? Either way, I was without a phone, and I needed to fix that, so I decided to head into the park. I ran as fast as I could to the phone booth. I dialed and waited for my parents to answer. I was sweating not just from the run, but I was sweating through fear. I was praying for someone to pick up the phone, but I knew my parents must have already gone to bed. I don't know how many times the phone must have rung, but after what felt like forever, I heard someone answer the phone. Just at that point, I saw the man approaching the phone booth, and he tried to open the door. I was desperately pleading with my mum for help while simultaneously trying to keep the man out of the phone booth. He was trying his best to force his way in, but I leaned my weight against the frame of the door, and it seemed to hold him off. I told my mom to get here as soon as possible. One great feature of the Japanese payphone is the red button. It's a little hard to describe, so here's a photo of one. Basically, if you hit the button, you will alert the services in your area to come to the phone booth's location and offer assistance. All you have to do is press that red button, pick up the receiver, and wait for a connection. The man saw that I had done this, and I'm certain he knew what pressing that button meant. This next part is gross, so please skip if you don't want to hear it. He pulled the jersey he was wearing down past his knees and exposed himself, pressing the lower half of his body against the glass in the phone booth, and smiled. The chill ran through me. It was nightmarish. While that was going on, I had to explain to another officer what was the purpose of my call. I almost broke down. They said, "Stay there until the police arrive." It wasn't like I could go anywhere else. When I hung up, I saw headlights of a car pulled into the park. I knew that car was my mom's. The man seemed to sense the danger and made a break for it. He rode off on his bicycle, yelling and shouting in the same manner he had done before. That's where my interactions with that creep ended. The incident made me wonder if he was just some kind of mad exhibitionist or if he had something worse on his mind. If he managed to get in that phone booth or follow me home, I don't know. Something tells me it's the latter. I'm not sure if I want to know anyway. It was such a scary experience. The old smile read, "My friend has an older sister, and we all think she's being stalked. It's ongoing, but I want to share what's happening currently. My friend's sister has been staying with my friend for a while now to get away from it all and repel our stalker. She said it's like living in a nightmare. I wanted to do something nice for her, so I offered to take them both out for dinner to take their minds off of things. We sat down to dinner, and things were going well until I saw my friend's sister's face drop and began to tremble. I felt bad for asking them to come out, maybe it was too soon. Then she muttered, "He sat behind me." I looked behind her and saw an old man with an unnaturally creepy smile, peering towards our table. He made me feel nauseous. It was just gross. He was the stalker. My friend had seen this guy following her sister before, so we were beyond it being a coincidence or a case of paranoia. My friend had had enough. She stood up and went over to his table and said loudly, "If you don't stop following my sister, then I'm going to the police." A few tables of people looked over, but the old man just sat there, smiling that inane smile. After a few moments, he got up and stepped away from his table, and then left. His expression didn't change, he just kept smiling. We thought that that bit of public embarrassment might be enough to put the creep off and make him leave my friend's sister alone. We were convinced it would work, and it turned out to be a correct prediction. Over the coming days, we would all joke about how easy it was. Everything came to a standstill for our sister, and a sense of normality was resumed in her life. However, just as soon as it ended, it seemed to start again. This time, the old man's target of torment was different. This time, he was stalking my friend, and not her sister, and he was a little more cunning in the method of stalking this time around. The old man began to haunt her life. He would just appear anywhere she went, but always at a distance or appearing inconspicuous. I will give you some examples. If she was out taking a walk or simply heading home, the old man would appear on his bike, riding towards her or from behind her. He would smile that creepy smile of his as he passed her by. He would be there during rush hour in the subway, where crowds had gathered, making her feel as if she had no escape from him. In places where it was difficult to move or get away quickly, she'd see that weirdo and his smile. Enough was enough. My friend went to the police. Unfortunately, they weren't able to help, saying that because he hasn't actually done anything except smile at her and her sister, they couldn't do anything. She left the station frustrated and with a feeling of vulnerability. The old man and his behavior got worse. He was everywhere. She thought that the police might have been able to intervene when she saw him at college on campus, but again, they weren't able to help or offer any kind of protection. To the untrained eye, he was just an old man who was walking around smiling. What's the harm in that? She tried to mobilize all of her friends to help discourage his behavior, but to our surprise, some of her friends didn't believe her. They said she was grasping at straws. She must have felt quite alone at the time. I believed her. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. I had first-hand experience. I saw that creep with my own eyes. Plus, anyone who knew my friend well enough would say that she is far from a liar or an exaggerator. It was helpless. Every day, she grew more nervous and worn down. And every day, the old man just smiled at her. He never did anything, he just watched her and smiled. She eventually dropped out of college and has grown less and less responsive to my calls and messages. I haven't really heard from her lately, and it's really worrying me. I feel as if we were right on the edge of something happening. Maybe I should speak up and yell at him, as she did for her sister. But if I did that, wouldn't he just start stalking me? I don't know. Recently, I got in contact with her sister, and I asked how she's doing. She thought that she was just wrapped up in her studies and didn't know what had been going on. I don't know what will come of this, but I am hoping that she's just laying low for a while. I hope that creep hasn't escalated his stalking. The closet. I met my partner 3 years ago, and we started dating. We did all the usual things. I met his parents, and then when we got engaged, we finally moved in together. One night, he had to work late. Normally, I wouldn't mind, but it was our anniversary, and we had planned on a little celebration at home. I was a little annoyed with that, so I decided to relieve a little stress by doing the long breath diet. Had you ever heard of that? It's a breathing technique which is good for losing weight. Basically, it helps build muscle strength and boost metabolism by increasing oxygen in blood cells. Anyway, I'm getting off track. There I was, doing my breathing exercise in front of the TV. Then I heard this weird noise. It was kind of like a clattering sound. It wasn't very loud, and it sounded as if it was coming from our bedroom. At first, I ignored it. I thought it was on TV. Then I heard a rattling sound. My mind started to come up with creepy ideas of what noise could be. I started to scare myself. I had never considered that my house could be haunted, but now I was thinking of it, and it was a terrifying thought to me. I timidly approached the bedroom door with the remote control in my hand like a makeshift weapon. I had really worked myself up. Luckily for me, there were no spirits in white dresses with long black hair. No creepy-eyed black children. No, it was just my bedroom. Feeling a little bit foolish, I turned to leave. The bedroom door was squeaking shut, and that was when I heard the rattling sound again. It came from the closet. I walked over and whipped open the door as fast as I could. There was no ghost in the closet, but there was a human, and there a naked stranger was squatting down in the closet, holding a bouquet of roses. "Guess you found me," the middle-aged strange man said as he rose to his feet. "Let me tell you that if something like this ever happens to you, you'll understand my reaction. You see, life isn't like the movies or dramas that you see on TV. If you see something like that, the last thing you can do on earth is scream. Well, at least it is in my case. I nearly collapsed. I remember dropping to my hands and knees in the bedroom and trying to crawl away as fast as I could. Hey, what's wrong? You know, I got divorced today." "Right." She signed the papers. "We're all good to go." "Oh, look at you. Look at you. So cute. I'm surprised you haven't. On our anniversary too." He slowly moved towards me and reached out a hand towards my leg. He grabbed my leg. I felt so disgusted. I didn't know what the hell his intentions were, but at the time, I was certain that my days were numbered. I thought that I wouldn't make it out of the bedroom alive. Then, just as I was preparing for death and praying to all the known gods, I heard the front door open. "He's home." I heard my mind shut. The old naked guy then said something along the lines of, "Told your friends. Well, we can celebrate the great surprise I gave you." So, then I hear my partner and one of his friends walking up the stairs. They walk into the bedroom to see what all the commotion is about, and then they see me on the floor, looking all disheveled, with a weirdo grabbing at my legs. They immediately think I'm cheating with this creepy naked closet man. My partner is yelling at me he can't believe that I would cheat on him. For the guy he's seeing in our home, everything's going crazy. I scream back at him for help, and I think I shouted something like, "I don't want to be killed by a naked old man." I know it sounds kind of funny, even to me when I think back on it, but God, it was terrifying. Once my partner saw the desperation in my eyes, he threw the old man off of me, and his friend called the police. We couldn't figure out how the hell he got in, maybe through an open window or something. Anyway, he was arrested, and we haven't had any trouble since. They can't look at a closet the same way, and I got my partner to remove all the closet doors in our house. Anyway, when you get home and you hear something unusual, go check the closet. But I hope you don't get a surprise like I did.